time of life in Hollywood, because there was a whole old guard of careers. There were careers that were dwindling ever so slightly, like Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong, and I say ever so slightly because these guys were holding on fiercely. Tony Bennett, Andy Williams, people like that who had been around for a long time. Perry Como, and this is by way of explaining a kind of revolution. When I grew up, there were just songwriters were in a group over here, and singers were in a group over here. And singers, their output went to these singers, who none of them essentially wrote songs. I think Mr. Sinatra has his name on like one song. I wish I could remember the name of it right now. But most of these guys didn't write, so I grew up thinking I was just going to write songs and then singers would sing them. And then in 67, 68, 69, this thing came along called the singer-songwriter. And this revolutionized the business, of course. And it's like Joni Mitchell said. She said, you know, there used to be a songwriter and there used to be a singer, and now there's a singer-songwriter who does a half-assed job of both things. For the most part, that's true, but you can't say that about everybody. You can't say that about Paul Simon. You can't say that about James Taylor. You can't say that about Billy Joel. I mean, there's, you know, we produced our share of good guys who could write pretty songs. But there was still a lot of resentment out there in this firmly entrenched Hollywood community of guys that, you know, I mean, even guys like Hal David and Burt Bacharach, Hal David, who I love, I mean, you know, all of a sudden they were scrambling to stay in the business. They did a pretty good job because they had Dionne Warwick. But there were other guys who were kind of pushed to the background. One guy immediately comes to mind is Irving Gordon, who wrote the unforgettable song "Unforgettable," and he had a huge hit with Natalie Cole, Nat King Cole's daughter. Now, I don't know whether you remember this, but this was when MTV had big muscles. They had a video of the daughter singing with her father. It was a trick photography kind of thing, but it was a duet, and it was fabulous. And the record went up to #1, and all of a sudden, here's Irving Gordon, who hasn't had a hit for 20 years, and he's sitting on a #1 record. And so we decide at the Songwriters Hall of Fame we're going to give him a special award, you know, the Unforgettable Award, you know. So I went down, and it so happened that he was directly before Billy Joel. Billy Joel was going to get something heavy like the Johnny Mercer Award or something. And so Irving went up there, and sitting in the front row was Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Rod Stewart, and Paul McCartney, and a whole bunch of other people, right, that I don't remember, but I do remember them. And so Irving stepped up to the microphone. Margaret Whiting gave him the award. He stepped up to the microphone. He said, "I just want to say, you know, that before I thank the Songwriters Hall of Fame for this award, that I'm glad that people have finally come to their senses and decided to pay some attention to good music for a change." He said, "because all of this damn rock and roll is just a bunch of crap," he said, looking right at Keith and Mick. And he said, "I mean, how much of this can we stand? How much of these cold-hearted drums on drums on drums?" Now he's getting very passionate about it. He's saying, "When I was a young man in the business, you know, people actually wrote real songs. I mean, music was music," and now it's turning into a rant, and it's turning into what I like to call a Patti LaBelle moment. And we can just keep that between us. But there may be some who know what I have in mind there. But some people do go on and on and on. So, and this is turning into something very unpleasant and not printable. This is not going to look good. And so the then chairman of the National Songwriters Hall of Fame, the great Sammy Cahn, lyricist, you know who he was, right? Chicago, Chicago. Was a lovely guy, and he loved songwriting. He loved songwriters, and eventually he was sitting near me, and I saw him charge up to the stage. His wife had him in the arms. She's trying to hold him back. He's going up, and he went up, and he proceeded to have a fight with Irving Gordon over the microphone. He's got the microphone like this, and it's like CSI. Both guys have the gun, and it's like, who's going to get shot? And the mic's going bang, bang, bang. And it's hitting the thing. And finally, Sammy hooks Irving Gordon through the elbow, and he says, "Cease and desist, Irving! Cease and desist!" And he starts trying to drag him off the stage. And in the background, Margaret Whiting has climbed up on the scenery because she's trying to stay out of the fight. So eventually, little, skinny Sammy Cahn manages to drag Irving off the stage. And Billy Joel came on and put the mic back in the thing and, said, "Well, Irving, that was certainly unforgettable."